Okay.
Okay, hey everyone. As you know, we talked about in last class, we've been discussing rhetoric. Can someone, because we're building towards crafting our individual rhetorical essays, can anyone remind the class of what rhetoric is?
There's an English major in the classroom.
Caroline?
Caroline, can you answer
It's like persuasive talking, writing.
Right, yeah. So it's the art of persuasion, or it can be the study of the art of persuasion, or it can be an individual act of persuasion. So someone elaborate on what persuasion means, what we're talking about when I say persuasion.
It's like to be able to like sway whoever your audience is one way or the other.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys two words, and I want you to infer what they might mean in the context of rhetorical analysis, which is what we're discussing. So the word rhetor and the word audience. What do you think they might mean in this context?
So what were the 2 words?
I'll write them on the board. So, rhetor and audience.
Well, audience is like the group of people that you're trying to convince or speak to.
Right, exactly. So then what would rhetor mean? Scott?
I'm gonna be honest, I know
So if audience is the party that is attempted, that someone is attempting to persuade, then the rhetor would probably be the party that's attempting to persuade the audience, right? Okay, so today we're going to be talking about different types of methods that the rhetor might use to persuade the audience, but first I'm going to give you guys an activity that you can work on in pairs. So just you two pair up, Scott and Connor. And then Aaron and Caroline and Priya. Y'all can, if you want to get closer, push together. And
Yes, thank you.
okay, so what I want you to be looking for is, I want you to decide, after reading the sentences and discussing them with each other, whether you think the sentence would persuade the audience. And explain why when we discuss, but I'll give you guys a few minutes to talk about it amongst yourselves. Which one are you on right now? I'm going to give you guys some questions that you might ask in order to kind of help you decide whether or not a sentence would be persuasive. So, like after reading or seeing this, is this something the audience would do or feel inclined to do? Does this make sense? Would the audience feel that this is reputable or believable? That might help y'all a little bit. Right, so in each one, there will be a rhetor and an audience. It might not be, it might be kind of general, but in this sense, obviously, the teacher would be the rhetor and the audience would be her students, or someone she's talking to about her students. So it's kind of like, does that make sense? Would someone think that that's a logical thing to say? You know?
But I can see doctors saying that I'm a doctor. There's no kind of there. What's that?
mean, I could say that. Trust me, I'm a doctor.
Right. So that's the things you have to think about.
Trust me, I'm a doctor.
You don't necessarily have all of the context here, maybe, so you kind of have to weigh that when you decide.
Why not? I'm dying.
Are you guys ready to come back as a group and discuss?
I'm your dad.
I think so.
Okay, so let's go with the first one. I'll read it aloud. A rule is a rule, the teacher said. Since the beginning of the year, through my saying it multiple times in class, writing it in the syllabus, and sending email reminders, I made it very clear that assignments are due promptly at 8 o'clock. So there simply should not be students telling me they were unaware of the deadline. What do you guys think?
That's pretty persuading, yeah.
What makes you think that?
Well, she says it was written multiple times when she sent it out, so, I mean, it's obviously something that's important to her.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Does someone want to read the second one?
A report is made every 10 seconds. Around 70% of children that die from child abuse are under the age of 4. Help raise awareness of child abuse by donating to Prevent Child Abuse America.
What do y'all think?
Persuasive.
Why?
Well, it just has like facts that statistics.
And how does it make you feel?
Like you should do it.
Yeah. Okay, number 3, Caroline? Or you already read one, Aaron?
Oh, yeah, this. You really should not travel in Mississippi. I heard they don't have enough electricity to wear shoes. Or, I'm not glasses, all I can, so.
Is that persuasive?
Absolutely.
If he was wearing
Sure,
glasses and
I
like
know.
took them off, right, he said, I'm a doctor, I'd be pretty persuaded by
You're
that.
reading wrong.
Where we are?
I think that's
Scott,
skip
pay
ahead.
attention. Oh my God.
Okay,
Where's
so
my now?
number 3, what do we think about
I
that
don't
one?
really think that that's persuasive.
Yeah, probably not.
They're stating
You don't really
facts.
know who's saying this, you don't really know where they heard it from or who they heard it from, so probably not gonna be persuaded by that. Okay, number 4. Do you wanna read it?
Sure. An older woman in the local Olive Garden restaurant begins choking on an olive. When a young man approaches to help, he prefaces with, "Ma'am, I'm going to help you. Trust me, I'm a doctor."
So what do y'all think about this one?
You know, I've used that line numerous times before, and it is very convincing.
I think in the lady's case, she doesn't have a choice.
Yeah. If I was joking, I wouldn't really
Yeah,
care if they were a
I would
doctor or not.
So that is one of the things you have to think about, like Connor said, anyone could say that, and in the situation, people might be persuaded by that because it's an emergency, right? Okay, the last one, you've probably all heard before, but someone want to read it? Scott?
Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow the situation can and will be changed.
What do you guys think about this?
Persuasive.
What do you think makes it that?
Well, it reaches out to everybody pretty much, just different people, and just the idea that, something is going to change from whatever the rest of the speech is.
Right, and what about specifically who said it? Do you think that would have some effect? Yeah. Okay, so what you guys actually just did and discovered, hopefully, is there's actually 3 types of rhetorical appeals: ethos, pathos, and logos. So ethos would be an appeal to credibility. So like the one we just read, which could be ethos and pathos, Dr. Martin Luther King is someone who we're all familiar with. People respected, well, most people respected, and he was thought of as a major leader. And so, that quote being by Martin Luther King is probably credible, and people are going to believe it and want that to be true and be persuaded by that. So what about, well, I guess I should explain the other ones. Logos would be an appeal to logic. So you're using things that you think the audience will think of as a logical argument. So for instance, number 1, could you guys see how this might be an appeal to logos? Can someone explain?
I mean, just like laying out that it's been like stated multiple times, there's not really anything for here.
Right. And that could also possibly be ethos because it is your teacher and, you know, kind of what she says should be the way that things go. And then the last one, pathos, is an appeal to emotion. So something makes you feel a certain way, and because you feel that way, you're persuaded to do this or not do this. So what of the sentences that we talked about maybe would be an appeal to pathos?
Number 2, just because, no one wants child abuse to continue, so you can like support a cause to make a difference.
Right, and so number 2 actually could be one of 2 things. What could it also be? You guys kind of touched on this, the first thing you said about it. It's fact-based, so it could be an appeal to logos, right? Because it's using a statistic to kind of persuade you. Okay, what about number 3? What would this be? An attempt, an appeal that's attempted. This could also be 2 things.
I would say either logos or pathos.
Yeah, okay, so logos, because this probably isn't logical, but I would also say ethos because you don't know who's saying this. You don't know if they're reliable or trustworthy or if they even know what they're talking about, right? And it could be pathos, maybe if you're from Mississippi, you might be offended. Okay, and then what about number 4? Yeah, because he's saying, I'm a doctor, you should trust me. I'm credible, I'm trustworthy. Okay, so based off of this, I feel like you'll have a good understanding. For homework, I'm going to give you a worksheet where you will decide between what appeals are occurring in what sentence.